Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you, this time talking episode 3 of season 6 of Arrow, Next of Kin. And all in all, I thought this was a fairly solid episode in terms of like what's going on with the characters. It's another one of those episodes where the main storyline itself is actually fairly weak, but the stuff that they have going on with the characters is the real strength of the episode. So let's get the main plot out of the way. Onyx is a character who, from what I've found out, is primarily an antagonist of Static, or as some people prefer to call him, Static Shock. I remember back in the 90s when he was pretty much just known primarily as Static. I think there might have been a lawsuit or something with the rapper that also uses that name. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know anything about her, and frankly, the whole plot with her of like, oh, she stole this ridiculous amount of gold from the Syrian government, and now she's doing all of this stuff in order to kill people who have information about her. Seriously, why don't you just blow their heads off with a sniper rifle and be done with it? That's a lot simpler than all of this nonsense with poison gas. There are far simpler ways to kill people. And it's just sort of like she has a fetish for killing people with this poison gas. I mean, how stupid is this? And why are all these covert, like, rogue covert agents going along with this? I mean, there was a famous case of a guy being assassinated by the KGB. They used an umbrella to covertly inject him with radioactive isotope or something that caused him to die a horrible death. Okay, if the KGB can pull that out and you want to make these people suffer, I'm sure you can pull something that's a lot less overt. And, you know, if you kind of just want to focus on the practical aspect of shut these people up, blow their heads off with a sniper rifle. Okay, well, let's just leave that aside. Some good did come out of all of this, though. I mean, we get to see Dig blow the mission, Renee not be very happy about it, so much so that he would basically say, Oliver, you need to come back in. And then John manages to turn it around, and everybody pulls off a really cool rescue of all these innocent civilians at the hotel. So I suppose maybe as those aspects of it were quite strong. But otherwise, yeah, everything else goes back to, I'm still sticking by what I said just a minute ago. Now, focusing in more on what's going on with the characters that I thought was well done. Oh yeah, and of course, the whole thing with what happens at the hotel factoring into Oliver's vigilante situation, anti-vigilante crime thing. I'm a little on the fence about that. But throwing it out there for the public to vote on, well, that's certainly going to be an interesting situation. I mean, technically, the Flash for quite some time was a vigilante, and now he works quite publicly with the CCPD. So the possibility of Green Arrow establishing something similar to that would be quite intriguing. I mean, the Flash has a holiday in the city, or at least was honored publicly by the mayor. So, and we know the Flash Museum is in his future. So it is interesting that this might be a possibility for Green Arrow. Because remember, they think that the original Green Arrow was Roy Harper and that Roy's dead. So, you know, the vigilante who killed all those people's deaths is no longer an issue. Although you would think that, you know, there was enough footage of Green Arrow captured over the years that they would be able to do comparisons and say that, hey, this guy, you know, is not as tall as Roy Harper. And I'm pretty sure that John is a little bit taller than Oliver. So again, some basic size comparisons, which is certainly within the capabilities of the police and the FBI. They can use things like, you know, some basic pictures to sort of do a little bit of math and figure out how tall someone is. That's not a new trick. You should pretty quickly be able to sort that out. But again, this is TV. We have to just sort of let some basic things go. Speaking of things that we need to let go, let's talk about Agent Watson for a minute. What exactly is she officially investigating? FBI agents cannot just, you know, go around and hassle people because they're like, I think you've done something bad and one of these days I'm going to prove it. That gets you in trouble. The feds do take the rules kind of seriously. I mean, if she is not there as part of an official investigation into something, all Oliver has to do is pick up the phone, call the local FBI field office, and file a complaint, and Watson is in hot water. So maybe I'm forgetting something here. I fully admit that's a possibility, but what legal justification does she still have in messing around with all this situation? I mean, again, I'm sure I'm forgetting something here. I have that feeling in the back of my head, but I've just got to throw that out there. Let's see. One thing I did like this episode was they do point out that John is not really that great with a bow. I'm sure he's probably picked up a little basic training from Oliver, the same way that Felicity got a little bit of basic hand-to-hand combat training from Oliver and Sarah. But yeah, makes sense that John's not that great. And I do love that his crossbow basically functions a lot like a rifle. Okay, John's a military man. He's somebody who's comfortable with a rifle. That's cool. And the idea of a Green Arrow crossbow, that's actually pretty cool. Crossbows, I don't know a huge amount about the weapons, but I do know a little bit about them just from readings I've done about historical stuff. And yeah, those things are seriously no joke. Back in the day, crossbows, before guns, were some pretty serious stuff. Let's see, what else? Again, had that nice moment with Renee where he kind of like says like, hey, John's not able to cut it, Oliver, you need to come back. And then him getting on Diggle's case when Diggle blows the mission, and then even coming around and saying to Diggle like, hey man, I was wrong. Cool, you're up for this. Again, I like that. Now, Diana continued to be the one that does not let John get away with any BS. Also cool. Man, I was really happy with Curtis this episode. Maybe it's just me, but his costume and his look somehow looked even better than usual this episode. I mean, maybe they tweaked the outfit or something, or maybe the makeup and costume people just did a really particularly good job on this episode. I don't know, but Mr. Terrific, looking sharp. And he did play a pretty major part in helping save everybody at the hotel, so cool stuff there. Really liked the situation with Felicity and William. Her seeing so much of herself in William, and that advice she gave to Oliver. Like, let him tell you what he needs. Now, keep in mind, and I've mentioned this in my reviews before, that I'm a teacher in America. I am a genuine certified teacher. And I spend a lot of time working with, teenage kids. And what Felicity said there is actually quite good advice. I'm not going to pretend that I'm really that great on the psychological counseling side of teaching because, that's not my area. My specialty is working with students who are still learning English. I'm an ESL, English as a Second Language. That's my area. But just from my training from my own practical experience, yeah, sometimes if you tell a kid like, hey, what can I do to help you? Tell me how to help you. That is more often than not a really good move. And Felicity is very astute in her observations of what exactly is wrong with William. So she's really doing great there. And obviously the chemistry between her and Oliver is as intriguing as ever. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where all of that goes. And I loved Oliver, the whole thing with like giving her keys and stuff like that. After everything they've been through, it's definitely a nice moment. And it reminds me of a quote that I read. And I think they were talking about, oh gosh, I can't remember if it was that old TV show from the 80s, Moonlighting, or whatever it was. They were talking about Frasier, and basically they were talking about like long-term, will they or won't they relationships on TV, and in fiction in general, I guess. And I can't remember for the life of me who said this, but they basically said, and it boils down nicely into one sentence, that the dance of courtship never gets old. And while I don't know if I would go so far as to say never, yeah, if you can keep the will they or won't they between two characters going, then yeah, people will stick with that for quite an astonishingly long time because they want the payoff. And there have been many examples in fiction where the writers have said, okay, well, let's just have these characters get together, and then the story immediately takes a plunge. The old TV show Moonlighting, which was really built around that idea. These two characters who just have this amazing chemistry together, but there's always something that kind of keeps them from being together, and then they finally put them together, and the show basically went right down the tubes. My personal favorite example of this was Niles and Daphne on Frasier, but as I get older, that reference continues to get more and more dated. Getting older sucks ass. But anyway, man, but when it was on, man, back in the day, Frasier was some great stuff. Loved Frasier back in the day. Anyway, let's see. What else do we have to talk about this episode? Yeah, I think that kind of... Oh, right! John is apparently taking drugs. All I can really say about this is, dear God, John, how can you possibly be this stupid? And, you know, after the Bruce Wayne reference last time around, part of me terribly, terribly wants whatever drug he's taking to actually be Venom. You know, the stuff that makes Bane super strong. That would be so damn awesome. So awesome. I mean, you know what? If Batman references are good to go, that's just too good a reference to not use. And, you know, it would hardly be the first time they've poached an idea from Batman. So, yeah, let's not go crazy. But, you know, if the studio has cleared the Arrow people to sort of be a little bit more free to take bits from previously inaccessible areas of the DC universe, then go for it. Don't go nuts, but go for it. Anyway, guys, that's everything I had to say this time around. As always, please comment, rate, subscribe. You can also, of course, join me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi, and please also join me on Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Until next time, take care and have a good one.